Welcome to Caching Waves. This is your Elliott Wave update for Bitcoin. Before I get started, I wanted to show you on Binance and several other exchanges, we did not break this previous low. But on Bitstamp, we did. So we're getting conflicting information. So on Bitstamp, it's considered 5 waves complete. And on most other exchanges, either a truncation or we only have 3 waves to the downside. Now, because of the length of time of this move, I believe we're either consolidating this entire area and we need more move to the upside, or if we did make a new low, we're just in an A wave about to make a C wave. And I'll show you those options here. So we're down on the micro. This isn't a macro count, so we're just focused on what's happening over the next couple days, so keep that in mind. If we had a truncation here, and we had a triangle in our fourth, and we're making a move to the upside, areas of interest, I've marked them off. These are previous resistance and order block areas. We want to keep an eye between 44,285 and 44,650, and then also between 45.5 and 46.2. See if our targets line up in that area. Go down to the 15-minute. So if we have the truncation and the low is in here, I've counted this out as most likely a flat or a WXY. Let me zoom in. As you can see, we had a zigzag as an ABC, have that as our A wave. We then had a 3-wave zigzag to the downside between the 70 and the 786, which means we're open for getting 5 waves to the upside, which would make this entire correction a flat, and that is a 3, 5 waves up. In which case we would expect another attempt to continue the trend to the downside. Whether or not we get that is yet to be seen. So the question I had for myself here is, how do I play this to make sure I get a good risk reward? And the only option I see at the moment is to either play a breakout trade, which means if we break out above this high with some volume, then I can buy the breakout. Say this comes up like so, buy the breakout with a lot of volume, and my stop will go at the previous pivot. It's the only way I can get a good risk reward, in which case it would be just over 3-to-1. You can see if I buy the breakout and put the stop all the way down here, it's a terrible trade. It's not worth taking. I always look for at least 2-to-1. If I don't see it, I say, okay, how can I get 2-to-1 on this trade? But realizing that if I'm wrong and we just make an expanded flat up here, get rejected, make an expanded flat, I might have to take another entry after the fact. So if I do a breakout trade, I have it in my head that I might have to take 2 entries on the trade. But it's worth it in my head because you saw we would have gotten 1.5 if we put it all the way to the downside, or 3.5 if we take it from that one. So it's worth taking. Okay. And if we come back here, my trade setup is to buy right below this low. And I would expect, if we're getting these 5 waves up, to hold this level of support here, turning resistance into support. So I wouldn't expect to come back below the 618. I'd want to find support right on this previous area here and then take off for our third. So I'm going to put in a few buy orders just above the 50, probably around 42,800-ish. I'll do that in a moment. We got a little bit of time. So that's the trade setup I'm looking for. Should be about 3-to-1, and I'll show you targets here. So we're getting a little bit of conflicting information on targets. the only way this turns into a 5-wave impulse that's a good impulse where we reach standard fib targets, you can see in green, is we get the 1.618 and then the 200. So we break through this first level of resistance, use it as support, and then make one more tick to the upside, and then potentially drop to the downside. But off our A and our B in blue, that would take us quite extended. If we take this wave extended off the B wave, that's the targets in blue you can see there. And normal targets would be the 1-to-1, which is right here, or the 1.382 or the 1.618. But you can see it doesn't line up if this is an impulse in green unless we get extensions. So a little bit of conflicting information there. But if you've done Elliott Wave long enough, you know patterns can always change. This could turn into a WXY and not an ABC, where we get 3 waves up, come back, another 3 waves up as a WXY. So we can eventually hit those targets. And time-wise for this, so I took this entire wave, if that's a truncation, 1-to-1 would be around January 18th. 618 would be around pretty much tomorrow, Tuesday. Or today, sorry. Tuesday. So we're getting close to our range here. So I want to see something pan out soon. But yes, just targeting these two areas, and I will move my stops and adjust them based on the waves we get after this area. But right now, I'm going to play either the breakout as long as I see a big move, or I'm going to buy the 50 here, stop at this low. Okay, so that's the first count I have. This is my second count. And that is if we ended here at the first wave, and we're starting our correction now, I would have this as a WXY. You can see this potential here. We get a W, and then we get a triangle, A, B, C, D. We're still working on the E wave. And then we get our move to the upside for our Y. I would adjust to this count and use those targets wherever that ends. But you can see the targets for this line up very nice, and that's the W off. We won't be able to measure it until we get the E wave, but if we just make a slightly new low in that area, we line up directly with those areas of resistance. So the way I would adjust and make this my primary is if we come down for an E wave and we launch, because after a triangle, we expect quite a large thrust. So if we get a large thrust, more so than we'd expect in a third wave, then I would say, okay, we're probably done here. But keep in mind, I didn't make this an ABC. We would only anticipate 3 waves. Reason being, we can't have a triangle in an ABC as a flat. And we only got 3 waves over here. It appears to me anyway like we only have 3 waves. So you can't call this a flat because you can't have a triangle B wave. So we'd anticipate 3 waves in this scenario. But interesting area. I'm not going to talk about what happens after yet. There's too many options. But as of right now, looking for one of these 2 scenarios to play out. But what's nice is both scenarios do defend this low. So it seems like a pretty good trade setup here. Both defend that low of either the E wave or if this is a B wave in a flat, and we started the correction here, like so. So that's the trade setup I'm looking for. Targeting at least this first resistance zone and to see what happens there, but expecting a little bit higher of highs. And I will have to adjust this count based on the reaction up here. Again, we don't know whether this is 3 waves or 5 waves with the truncation. Bitstamp showed us 5 waves down, but majority of the other ones didn't. So it'll be an interesting area. So that's my trade setup I'm looking for, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll make sure to update that as we go, and subscribe if you want to see the updates.